Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi, and today we have a team report from the World Championships, and I am joined by is that World's top four, World's fourth place competitor, Montana Mott? Is that right?
Hello. Yes, that is correct. I was fortunate to have a very good run. But yep, I'm Montana and excited to talk about the team.
Yeah. Well, for those who don't know you, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I just started playing VGC a few years ago. I started in like COVID in the Sword and Shield era. I had like dabbled a little bit before that, but that's just when I started playing. And yeah, I guess I'm from Seattle, where we have a really strong local VGC scene, and I've been excited to get into the game that way. And I was happy to have my kind of breakout international finish here because I just had never done well at like global events before. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah. Fun fact: you're our top four set at Los Angeles Regionals is the one set of Pokemon that my girlfriend has seen, and so she knows who you are and no other Pokemon players.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, and then there was LA where we both brought very similar Shadow Rider teams, and we
Mhm.
both had the call for the meta way back when everyone thought Shadow Rider was bad. Oh, how times have changed.
Oh, I wish. I wish we could go back to that. Freest tournament I've ever played in. But yeah, and then we're also joined by Sanvy, who got top 32 at the World Championships with the same team. Sanvy, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm Sanvy. I go online as by Sanvy. My name is Simone Sanvito, long time watcher, first time guest here, and excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I guess, do you want to give a quick intro about yourself as well?
Yes, I live in Italy. Obviously, another very strong region. Not thanks to me, sadly. I started playing way more back than Montana. I started playing in 2014. My first national was technically in 2014, where I went to Italy nationals that were close to my house. It was black and white too. I went there not knowing what VGC was until like the Monday of the tournament. I was about to show up with an OU team, and I also didn't know anything about Gen 5. So yeah, I've been playing. I started playing around that era and got like more serious, more active in like learning the game towards the start of X and Y, and I've been a pretty consistent player since then, with the exception of COVID and Dynamax. I stopped. I took a break there, then went back with Skeleton Violet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you guys both won regionals in Scarlet and Violet, and now you guys both did really well at the World Championships this year. Congratulations! And then of course, Chuppa also was on the same team as you guys, and also got top 32 at Worlds. Um,
I mean, I
and
can do that. I can play the chopper part, no problem.
yeah, well, it just it really speaks to the strength of the team that all three of you guys brought the same team, and all three of you did really well. Did you guys work with anyone else in the lead up to this tournament?
um, Andrew Ding had helped out with the team, but he ended up using something different.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it was mostly that group and then just like trying stuff. And I would say the team mostly came from Samvy, who put in most of the building work. And then we just did a lot of idea bouncing and practicing and stuff together and figuring out plans and things like that.
Yeah, you guys had a crazy cumulative run. But before we talk about the team itself, which I do have the pace pulled up here, I'd love to talk a little bit more about Calyrex Shadow Zamazenta because I know both of you guys have basically been using that one Pokemon for not only most of this format, but also most of Regulation G, all the way back to like that Los Angeles Regionals that we talked about. So did you guys know from the start of the season all the way? I know back at like Milwaukee regionals, um, did you know that you were going to be bringing Calyrex Shadow Zamazenta for the entire season?
I can speak for myself first. I didn't know that it was going to be Zamazenta. I knew I liked Calyrex Shadow and I wanted to click Astral Barrage because it's just the most broken move ever. Um, but I did try some of those other teams, like Caloric Shadow, Maridon, or different things of that nature, but I just feel like nothing felt like as real of a duo as Shadow Rider Zamazenta. So I think I was like, I don't know, I was still experimenting with other things, but that was always the one where I'm like, yeah, it probably should just be Caloric Shadow Zamazenta.
For me, I started when the regulation I was first announced. I wanted to become a nice rider, Miraidon main, because I was a Miraidon stan back in regulation G. But then, CSR Zama, pretty strong, probably top one. So I started playing it, and nothing was feeling. When I was going to other teams, so nothing was feeling as good as CSR Zama. And so eventually I just gave up.
Yeah, that's fair, and I think I agree. I think it is like pretty confidently the most consistent team across this entire format. Probably, I think everyone's seemed to beat going into the World Championships. But despite that, you guys both had been running. You guys both ran something that was a little different than what we had seen up till this date, and even a little different than what you guys had run up to this date. Sanvy, I know you used this Tinglu version, and you did really well at the. I think I have this pulled up somewhere. The North American Championships up here. I think you made top cut, right?
No, I finished top 42.
Top
Like,
32.
not top cut. I finished the unanswered.
Yeah, so you had this Tinglu version, and then Montana, you got to top 8 of Portland regionals with this version with double grass, and you had run the Smeargle version at the North American Internats. So I guess I've got two questions. The first is, we had this long break between NAIC and the World Championships. Did you guys did you guys ever have second thoughts about running Caloric Shadow Zamazenta? Did you consider running anything else, or were you always dead set on that team? And then how did you end up deciding to run this version of Caloric Shadow Zamazenta before the World Championships?
um, I know for me, I had like I said, just tried a lot of the different Caloric Shadow teams. Like I even tried Caloric Shadow Maridon with the Terra Fairy Shadow Rider. But I kept finding that like all the other kind of weirder versions I just couldn't make work. And I thought the two strongest versions were the Sash Shadow Rider ones that looked like this, where it's like, Chien Pao, Zamazenta, and then you pick three other Pokemon. And also the Life Orb, like Smeargle version with the Terra Dark, or like Life Orb versions that had Tailwind on them. So I was just kind of trying, the Sash Shadow Rider Zama and the Life Orb Shadow Rider Zama. And in my head, I was like, I want to kind of have a good one of either of those, maybe a couple weeks before Worlds, and then kind of just pick whichever one is working out. But I always kind of liked the Sash one better. The team just felt more like playing real. I don't know. I don't want to say real Pokemon because it's kind of like cliche, but it just felt like I could rely on my other Pokemon more than um like Chimpao and Zamazenta are so good, and it's just like you don't put all the weight on the Shadow Rider like the Life Orb teams kind of do when they're doing like Fake Out, Nasty Plot, Protect, like Parting Shot, Tailwind, Astral Barrage, etc. I just feel like a lot of people were very practiced in that style. So that's kind of why I was interested in Sash. And then yeah, I'll let Sanvy talk, and he might be able to talk more about arriving at the team too, because I arrived at
Yeah,
it kind of through him.
for me, no problem. For me, I started actually running Sash CSR Zama was the first very technically no. Let me rephrase that. When Limitless, like when it was still April and the Regulation I wasn't officially the format, but it was unofficially the format. The format and like Limitless tournaments, VRs were going on. I started out just doing Life of CSR in Cinderella, that sort of team, and I didn't like the way it played. When the first VR of Regulation I happened, I was scrolling through teams and saw that Snow was using Sash CSR with Anchor and Zamazenta, and that was like an idea that I thought about. Just it was like 1 week into the format, so I didn't really care to build on that, but I saw him use that with Tornado, Urshifu, Life Orb Champa, and I don't and Rillaboom was the last one. So in the Victory Road tournament after that, Zin wins with this team with the exact same six. So I start playing it on Shodan Best of One, and I was like, wow, this such CS. I like the way these teams feel rather than the life orb fake out one. Because the thing is, this is a realization I came between NXT and Worlds. Zamazenta is a really good Pokemon. It's not broken, it's an honest worker. It has just good stats. It's you with an 80 base power move at +1. That's all it does. But it's very fast, base stats wise, and very bulky, and it's very hard. It doesn't care about intimidate. And in those fake-out teams, I didn't like that Zamazenta felt like a generic fighting type Pokemon. You know, something you used to with a Terapagos or an Incineroar. I wanted to use a more proactive Zamazenta, if that makes sense. And Chanpao is the best enabler of Zamazenta that there is in the game. Because with Word of Ruin, the ability to hit Among Us, it's a yeah, very good enabler of it.
Yes. Oh,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, it always felt like these teams were like Shadow Rider, Zamazenta, and Chimpao were like the most important three because like they're just so good on these Sash teams, and then it's like a matter of trying to figure out, well, one, the Chimpao item, and then like all the other
Yeah,
slots.
the problem with wanting to use this style of team is that you cannot have two sashes on Champo, and Sash on Champo is by far its best item.
Hmm.
Yeah. So then like you saw like at Portland, I had that Life Orb one. But then that started getting really hard to use. I feel like after, especially like going into NAIC and beyond, like I feel like Incineroar usage picked up. I don't know if that's actually true, but I just remember like I just hated dealing with Intimidate. Like I wanted Ruination really bad. So I think some people started moving to that. And also the Life Orb one just like wasn't cutting it for damage. And then Scarf Miraidon also picked up a ton, and that's really
Yeah,
horrible
that's
for
the big one for
yeah,
Life of Champo.
yeah,
Because
for
Life
Life
of
Orb.
Champo, technically, if you look at it from a fundamental point of view, it's not wrong. It's a strong guy, fast guy, give it a Life Orb. Those style of Pokemon tends to only have two items, either Life Orb or a Focus Sash.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So then I think it was, after Scarf Miraidon started rising in usage, we saw people using the Assault Vest POW. I know there was a large Japan grassroots tournament where someone won with Assault Vest POW. Maybe it had been around before that, but I think that's the first time I had seriously thought about it. But it's just so nice because it could live those Scarf Miraidon hits.
Yeah,
And
funnily enough, a friend of me texted me the day before I was leaving for NXT. Actually, he texted me, "Do you think AV Champo is good?" And I said, "Probably. I mean, Dark type is a very good defensive typing in this format, and Champo has 1 gajillion good moves it wants to run, so it." Probably has some merit to it. And also, I fought one, this was like after Japan Nationals. I fought one on the best of one ladder. I was trying the Kinugawa team. It took nothing from +2 Astra Barrage. Uh, I was like, wow, this is real. And I started trying it. This was like in June, like mid-June, I think. I was kind of big on the AV power. I was telling people this is troll, but maybe not. Maybe there's some merit to it because Ruination is a very good move on Champ Power.
just Ruination is so good, especially because Intimidate is everywhere, and things like damage reduction, like screens. I feel like less so, but there was a time where screens was really popular, and also like even like Lunala being able to Ruination Lunala. Like there's just so many things where just getting that guaranteed 50% is amazing. Also, other Zamazenta, like that's huge. Being able to actually have a
Yeah,
move, like you could do like Sacred Sword, but I just feel like having something like Ruination is so,
Yeah,
nice.
Sacred Sword is good to do the last part of the Ralph. Ruination is better to do the first half of the Ralph, if you want to put it that way. I also tried Sacred Sword at one point. Not
Hmm.
on the AV1 because the AV1 can't afford to run that much attack, but on like Stash slash Life Orb ones.
Yeah, yeah,
The move I missed having the most on Champa was Taunt, because they used the Taunt in NIC, and I think that's a broken move in the regression eye, because there's a lot of Pokemon that if they get taunted, they don't do anything, or they're severely limited. That's for example. Leech Seed Ice Rider. If you versus Ice Rider, Leech Seed Ice Rider teams, my game plan was just to lead the Zamazenta Champa and click Taunt and Body Press. What are you gonna fake out? You're gonna lose something valuable regardless. Also
hmm
at NAC, I've had a lot of games where people, mid to end game situations, where people were coming in with their Incineroar and they needed to fake out my Champa that was like minus 76 just to prevent taunt, because if I taunt their Ice Rider, they cannot get Trick Room up, and if they cannot get Trick Room up, they get demolished by Astral Barrage later. So that's the move I missed. I missed not having the most, and I wanted to
Yeah.
slot it on someone. The only Pokemon that learn it in this team are Shadow Rider, but you don't want to click out with Shadow Rider, I think,
Does
and
Raging
Raging
Bolt
Ball,
get?
funny enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it does.
Wait, Raging Bull gets
Um.
taunt? I didn't know
uh,
that.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That I've been hit by that on best of one ladder, I think. And then I guess we could talk about how we arrived at the Dragonite. And then yeah, because that's kind of. I feel like Dragonite was like kind of around. Like people had done it with Covert Cloak Pow. Some people were trying it like in the, VR tournaments and things, but I just started trying it mostly because Sanvy said it was really good. And I was like, I trust you, and it was fun to click Terra Normal E Speed, and I was bringing it a
That's very
surprising
fun.
amount. Um, but yeah,
Um,
Sandy, how did you come to the Dragonite exactly?
So actually, I've had the idea of Dragonite when the format first started,
Hmm.
but I wasn't because when the regulation first started, people were like, Sun beats CSR Zama. I'm gonna use Sun to beat CSR Zama. And
Mm.
Dragonite has some options into that because Dragonite lets you click extreme speed on Chiyu, for example.
Hmm.
Scarf Chiyu was an headache to deal with. Coraidon already chips itself, so it's easy to have it in extreme speed KO range. But I never really tried it.
Hmm.
Then I was watching a Alex stream, and this was like late July, towards the end of the battle spot, and I saw he played the rank 8 player, and he had like this not this six, he had Iron Valiant instead of Raging Bolt
Hmm.
and Dragonite. I'm a big Dragonite fan, so and I said, what's the harm in trying this? Because Dragonite in theory did well into a lot of meta developments that came up after NIC. For example, versus Volcarona, it's amazing versus Volcarona, provided
Hmm.
you don't get burned. Funny enough, I had Rock Slide on my Dragonite when I started using it.
I
It was
remember that.
fun to pick Rock Slide. Yeah, the Zoyan Arcanine. He's
Yes.
an Arcanine
Has
saga.
returned. Yeah.
Yeah. But Dragonite was feeling very good. Being able like to click Astral Barrage on something and then okay, cool. You now die to extreme speed. Also, having normal coverage plus ghost plus fighting is very good. And Dragonite has also a lot of synergy with CSR and Samazenta technically. First of all, because it's a good shampoo partner. Second of all, because it's a Pokemon that wants to Terra Normal. It's not some Terra Normal. For example, it's not Terra Normal CSR that you run to because, I have to get to be immune to Astral Barrage. Dragonite is a Pokemon that wants to Terra Normal to do
Yeah.
its most basic game plan. So it feels good into that because their Shadow Rider cannot click Astral Barrage to pick up 2 Chaos, for example. And its typing, it's very good defensively for this format. It switches on Zamazenta very well. And after you tear, it's good into CSR. And if non-Sash Shadow Riders want to Terra to get away from your Astral Barrage, then you have a very free pin with extreme speed. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this, but it's also good into Scarf Miraidon. You take Scarf Miraidon, it's very hard for it has to commit to a Volt Switch to not take an Astral Barrage in the early game. And if it takes a well Astral Barrage, then it's in extreme speed range. And both Dragonite and the Calyrex, they work for the same end game. Sometimes you want to Astral Barrage early for to have everything in extreme speed range. You know,
Hmm.
KO the Ghost types or have them waste resources like Terra on their Ghost type not to die to Astral Barrage.
Hmm.
And the other way around is true. Sometimes you can just do Zamazenta, not Zamazenta, Dragonite Chanpao, click Ruination Extreme Speed on whatever, and then, oh, everything is in yellow. I guess I'll click Astral Barrage twice and win.
Yeah, yeah. Dragonite is so good. And one thing, like you said about it wanting to Terra, like I ran these same six, but with Rillaboom at like Portland and in the Global Challenge. And when I had those six, I felt like nothing was a Terra Hog and nothing like really wanted a Terra that much. And I had like some games during my GC run where I like didn't use a Terra ever. Like most of the time it was like, okay, I guess I'll click Terra Ghost on Shadow Rider for more damage. But like nothing really wanted a Terra. So having that Dragonite on the Rillaboom slot is awesome because it's like, oh, I really want to Terra this. Like it just felt like me getting more use out of Terra.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. I also feel that week when I use the Team Blue version of this
Hmm.
team because for the like until NIC I used this six but with AV Team Blue instead of Dragonite.
Hmm.
In Bologna, special that happened 2 weeks before NIC, I was Terra Normal on Shadow Rider, and I also ran into the same issues. Nothing on this team wants to. I don't have an offensive Terra except
Hmm.
for like Electric on Raging Bolt. And Shadow Rider, when I used in Bologna, I was Terra Normal and I was EV'd to leave Scarf Terra Water Surge Strikes from well, Scarf or Shifu.
Oh wow.
And to do that, you have to waste 100 special attack EVs. And my Shadow Rider in Bologna was feeling very mid. I remember that I benched it a lot because it wasn't doing anything for me. And in NAC, I've run Terra Ghost, and I was very happy with the change because finally my Terra is doing something. And
Yes,
also, I
yes.
felt like in CSR Mirrors, I was clicking Terra Normal on turn one and I was getting psychic on turn
Yeah,
one.
they just
So,
psychic you. Yeah.
and also having the extra power on the Shadow Rider that is now a Dark type because of Terra is actually something real, something tangible. I don't know whereas Terra Normal is like, okay, this is a 50-50 now. We're gonna psychic me or
Yeah.
Assault Barrage me.
It just
Mhm.
feels a lot better. Yeah. And then the last two
Yeah,
slots. Oh, yeah.
no, sorry,
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, like, that's kind of like why we like the Dragonite and the POW and the Zom and the CSR. And then the last two slots, we had just kind of, I think of the Raging Bolt and the Amoonguss, I think of them as more as like just good Pokemon that you can bring into various matchups, but they're just like kind of along for the ride. It's more about like the Zamazenta Shadow Rider, Chimpao Dragonite. Like they're kind of the main four, and then the Bolt and the Amoonguss you kind of just bring, in matchups where you want them, but they're less of like a core part of the team. Like maybe you could switch them for other things, but I just felt like they were the best in those.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up
That's
because I know you faced Michael Derbesti in top eight, who was on a very similar team. He had a Rock Pond, and I know that had gotten top four at a Victory Road Tour the weekend before the World Championship. So this version was around with the Rock Pond, and then I think I also saw I was scrolling through this tournament. I saw John 2 also top cut with the rock pot and no dragonite and the otherwise same 5. So
Yeah, because
uh,
me and Marco used this a few weeks ago from this victory road. Marco
mhm.
got finals and I got top four. We both lost to Frederick Nielsen, funnily enough.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
But
people picked it up.
yeah, so I'm
Mhm.
curious, did you
But
guys ever
that
consider different Pokemon in the last two slots? And again, I see Rock Pond a lot popping up here. So did you guys ever consider
Um,
that version?
I know. Yeah, I didn't try the Rock Pond version as much. Maybe Sam we could talk about in a sec. But I had tried different redirectors in the Amoonguss slot, like support oriented Volcarona and Ogerpon Hearthflame, funnily enough, and they weren't bad, but like I just felt Amoonguss was better into some matchups, like Lunala Miraidon or just other specific things where it just gave it a slight edge. But I had mostly just tested other redirectors, and then I'd always liked Raging Bolt because you can kind of bring it to a lot of stuff. But I don't know, maybe Samvi, you could talk about if you tried Cornerstone or.
Yeah, I did, as I said before,
Mhm.
I used it in that Victory Road tournament, and for some time later for practice purposes. And in Victory Road, I don't remember using it that much. It was nice to have the option to have two redirections, but then I started first of all, Rockpon was there because Volcarona was popping up, and Volcarona is probably the only Pokemon that can stand in front of Zamazenta and Champa, and this team, and also can like Quiver Dance to outspeed Shadow Rider, take its attack better. And when you have to deal, for example, with a Scarf Miraidon and Volcarona with Shadow Rider, suddenly you don't feel like one of the best Pokemon in the format because you have two things that outspeeds you. And you don't do little damage to Volcarona, but they get to struggle bug you. They get to flamethrower Zamazenta. Like Volcarona was very annoying. What's the obvious counter to Volcarona? Rock move. So I was trying Rockman also. It provides value with Follow Me for Shadow Rider, and it gets some useful moves that you can run. For example, Taunt, Anchor. I mean, Anchor is technically already on CSR. But Rockman wasn't feeling that good. I had it to beat Volcarona, but the thing it wasn't beating Volcarona because like they were I found myself often in like my opponents having a board state of Scarf Miraidon plus Volcarona, two things that outspeeds me, and my rock pawn can do anything and just dies, and it doesn't beat Volcarona. And to prevent that board state from creating, I either had to commit to a read. Like it was, for example, I lead rock pawn and you lead Volcarona Miraidon. Uh, you want to protect, but I also want to preserve my sturdy. So if you get a quiver dance up on my protect, for example, that feels very bad. Like there's a
Mhm.
lot, like that situation. Rockpon was for that matchup mainly. It also is a very useful Pokemon in general, but it was there for that setup primarily, and it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do, and I think it needs tailwind. It's good with Cesar Zaman, but you need tailwind to make it work. Like a
Mhm.
Whim, I also tried a variant with Whimsicott and Ogerpon Cornerstone, and with tailwind it felt very good. Also, it was like a decent meta call, I guess you can say, because every instant was AV, Terabug, no physical bulk. Ice Rider, some of them were Terrafire that overlaps with the Rock weakness. So that it like Rockbone was a good Pokemon, but you need some real speed control to enable it. I feel it. I feel like.
Hmm. Makes sense. And so yeah, you guys kind of talked about why you put all the Pokemon on the team. And some of these movesets pretty standard, some of them less standard. Do you want to talk about the decision points that you guys had when you were building and why you made the decisions that you did, as far as these movesets, EV spreads, etc.
Uh, yeah, for sure. I guess we could split it up. I will talk about some first, and then Sam, we can talk about some of the other ones. But for the Shadow Rider, as far as the moves go, I think this is just the most standard SAS Shadow Rider. Encore, I think is maybe the most thing where you have some flexibility in what you could put there. But I always liked Encore because it makes end games so much nicer. You can just like lock up certain end games, like if they can't protect, or it just has like so much utility. I clicked it a lot during my
Anchor on Thunder,
tournament run.
Grapple, and Sucker Punch.
Mm-hmm. There's
It's,
this,
it's very nice. I feel I feel like Anchor is one of the best moves in the game. Period. Doesn't matter the format. Doesn't matter if you can put Anchor on your team. You will get a lot of value from it. I feel like on a fast Pokemon, unlike Whimsicott, or like a faster Pokemon, I guess.
yeah, Encore was just amazing, and even just like always having a potential bailout of encoring them into a move that can target the wrong slot. That can sometimes,
That's true. So yeah.
yeah, that can save your butt. And
I feel like Anchor is one of the moves that has the most skill expression in the format.
mhm,
Because you can anchor something on like Protect or a setup move, and that's free, but you can also anchor them to prevent them to do something, for example, 2 turns later. To
mhm,
prevent them for like to like protect. That was something I was doing with Rubega Miraidon versus Terrapagos. I was anchoring them to set up an Urshifu kill like 2 turns later.
yeah,
And
it's
I love Anchor, honestly.
yeah, it's so good. It was actually crucial in some of my sets. Um, and then yeah, the like we talked a little bit about the Terra Ghost on it, but it's just like having a good offensive Terra, and we have other ways to deal with the mirror on this team. So I don't think you'd want to go normal. Normal just felt kind of bad.
Yeah,
Um,
no, normal feels better in the mirror, but yeah, for the stuff I've said before, it's not the optimal one, I guess.
yeah, and then I guess
Because also, Remont.
you're good. You're good. You can go.
Okay. One thing Sash Shadow Rider is bad at is damage output, and having Terra Ghost is a way to cheat yourself a life orb, like a no drawback life orb.
Yeah, it starts to be important for a lot of two hit KOs too on different restricteds is having that Terra Ghost. Um, but yeah, and then I'll talk about some of the more common things first, I guess. The Among Us is also pretty standard. Um, I feel it's like, I guess Sludge Bomb, it could be Pollen Puff, but I just think the offensive capability of Sludge Bomb is nice in some specific situations, like for Fairy Ice Rider or Fairy Lunala, or just like general offensive outputs. And I liked going with a nature that boosted special defense so that you can live Psychic from opposing Sash Shadow Rider. That's kind of why I had always lean towards that nature. And then Terra Water is just like I feel like a generally good defensive Terra on Among Us. There are some other options there, but I just felt Water was the most like broadly applicable for trying to live double ups. Um, and then I guess talking about more things that are more common or standard before we get to the fun stuff is the Raging Bolt. I feel like is also pretty like standard. It's Bolt Clap, Pulse Protect. Um, I think we had gone. I at one point was testing Life Orb over Booster, but I ended up liking Booster because there are like a lot of moves you can barely live with Raging Bolts, like bulk and EV spreads. Like you can, barely take a Glacial, or barely take like +1 Life Orb Astral Barrage, or things like that nature, where as soon as you have the Life Orb on it, you are now dying to those things. And it felt like you wasted a ton of EVs. So I just felt like the booster one, while it's a little less like you can't switch it out as easily as Life Orb, um, I just liked that. It felt like you were getting value out of the bulk EVs. Um, so that's like why this bolt is this way. Um, and then, yeah, I guess, Sanvy, if you want to talk about the Chi Pow now, because I feel like that's kind of the fun
Okay.
one that you had the
Okay.
idea for.
I was the first champ AV Champ fan. not in the world, but one of the first ones, I would say. And I was like trying it for fun, just to see if it had some merits to it. I was using a very different TV spread from this one. I was using like careful, I think, to leave specs Miraidon, which it can do. It requires a careful nature and like max HP, max special defense nature, or something close to that.
Mhm.
But the capabilities of Ruinations in combo with Zamazenta and just Ruination in general, because if your opponent has Incineroar on the team, it's very easy to isolate Champa, and with Ruination, you start doing 50% to everybody. So you also start having like Sucker Punch pressure into CSR is always good, always will be. Ice Spinner ice coverage is also very valuable in every format. And the first draft of this Champa didn't have Icy Wind, it had Ice Shard. Ice Shard, I'm a big Ice Shard fan in like even Sash on Sash Champa. But I shared here made the most sense because you can't run Protect, you can't run Taunt, so probably the best move to put there was iShard. And iShard is good like iShard main uses were to deny Tornadoes to set up a second Tailwind, Chaos Mirgle once it was down to its focus slash, no matter Tailwind, no matter how crazy mood you got, you always had that safe pin.
Mhm.
And other general utilities, like for example, Keying Fluttermane at Stash, they cannot taunt to avoid that Sucker Punch Ice Shard on their Champa that were down to its focus sash. They cannot like out Sucker Punch you, win the
Mhm.
split. It's niche situations like this. Then this was like actual adjustment, like the icy wind we made the day before World.
Yep.
Every CSR was like we felt like every CSR was going modest. Jolly Max Speed and Powered Speeds it. If you put if your Shadow Rider becomes lower than Zamazenta, that feels very oppressive because Shadow Rider is good into Zamazenta, obviously. Now it's not because I see when the plus Zord of Rain boosted Heavy Slam. Oh, your Shadow Rider is modest, yeah, modest, I guess, but also this applies not to modest ones as well.
Mhm.
Your Shadow Rider is Life Orb. Now it dies to Life Orb Recoil, and it was also good for like Zamazenta Speed Wars and
Mhm.
also some like niche applications, for example, breaking a focus sash on like that. I guess on Flutterman it doesn't really come up, but on like Shadow Rider, other Champa, Iron Bundle, for example, it has, and also if you ice even Smeargle, even if it gets Moody, it's not faster than CSR, even if it gets Moody plus 2 speed. And so I tried it just for fun and ladder. And I was also beating my roommate with this, with like Icy Wind was feeling amazing there because yeah, I was making Shadow Riders lower than my Zamazenta, and this Shadow Rider suddenly had way less value. And yeah, my friend was using for context the Marco Fiero NIC team, and it was also hard for him to get rid of the Champa fast enough. And I got to click like a lot of Renations, Icy Winds. Every move felt very impactful, and Icy Wind was one of the most impactful ones. Um, I didn't feel like I needed Ice Shard because Ice Shard was carry over. Is this a word from when I was using like the Rock Band version when I had no Dragonite basically,
Mhm.
and Dragonite gets to extreme speed tornadoes that wants to click Tailwind for a second time. It
Yep.
gets to extreme speed slash Aqua Jet as Mirgol that is at 1 HP. So it felt like a lot of like Ice Shard and Dragonite had a lot of
Like
overlaps,
overlap.
and
Mhm.
yeah, and having like soft speed control in this team. I like priority as a form of speed control, but having ice shard on a Pokemon that's already has ice Fire Punch felt a little bit redundant. It ended up being huge for me in the tournament. I went for the Icy Wind and play on a lot of like model CSR is the one that gets punished the most by this, but even timid one, like you can Icy Wind down timid Shadow Rider, then your Zamazenta body press or whatever the right slot, and then your Shadow Rider is lower. And it probably went for Terra Dark to avoid the Sucker Punch. So body press can be an easy attack into that slot, or even Slam, Zamazenta Slam. It's a strong move, I will say. There's a 120 base power into almost everything.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you had gave the suggestion for Icy Wind, and I was like, it sounds good, but do I want to switch the day before Worlds? And then I tried to practice that versus I think it was Cheppa, and we were playing some of the mirrors, and I was like, oh my god, I get it now. Icy Wind is
I
amazing.
Yeah, I tried it one time. It was after one of the summer victory roads, and there I
Hmm.
played Shohei Kimura, and he was using Modest CSR, and that was giving me a lot of issues because +2, like +2 Astral Barrage, Chaos Maisa Magenta,
Hmm.
always if they're modest. I mean, not always, but it's a role in their favor.
Hmm.
And I was trying to, and I can't deny them from setting up Nasty Plot because they had like Smeargle and Ogerpon, so it was a no-go for me to deny the Nasty Plot. And I had the Icy Wind idea to like AV Chen Power can take Astral Barrage fairly well, even if they're like +2.
Yep.
I had the Icy Wind idea. I queued one game on ladder with this. This was like again in July.
Hmm.
I play someone with that's the model CSR plus Mirgo plus Zamazenta, and the Smirgol had wide guard.
No, yeah.
Um, I thought this wasn't good, but then I was seeing like the day before Worlds, I was seeing my friend play on Showdown, and it was playing into like this six because this wasn't something secret. This setup of teams, and he
Hmm.
was trying his desperate, trying his hardest not to lose. And I was seeing him making some plays, and to let's call it rage bait. To rage bait him, I was telling if Champa has icy wind now, like if this Champa had icy wind, this play doesn't work.
Yeah.
And he replied, "No champ power runs." I said, "Well, guess I do."
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
That's so
and
funny.
I think also, watching your top eight set against Michael, it felt like Icy Wind was definitely really important there as well. So you could definitely see it.
Yeah.
Um,
And even versus Torviv, who did have wide guard, Icy Wind was still I still clicked it a lot and it was good. But
yeah.
yeah,
It,
what are
Yeah,
you gonna
it
say?
because
was.
also the thing. Sorry, Adi.
You good?
Sorry to cut you off. I mean, the thing is, you force the Zamazenta to click wide guard if you have
Yeah.
icy wind, and if they happen to be modest CSR, and I mean, CSR does a lot to AV power. Even he wants their boosted, but they're not KOing, and then they have to deal with. And also, I can just I spinner them
Yeah.
on the wide guard. I spinner plus life orb chip is a significant damage on them,
Mhm.
Mhm.
or
But
like raw sucker punch.
but yeah, moving on to I think the last Pokemon that you guys haven't really talked about is the Zamazenta, which I know, Mont, you had a Twitter thread where you talked about a bunch of highlights of your run, a bunch of important things, and you really highlighted the bulky Zamazenta spread, which is interesting because
Yeah.
Sanvy, you ran something completely different. So I'm curious, Mont,
Yeah,
I'd love to hear your
I
thoughts about. Mont, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Zamazenta, and then Sanvi after that, I'd love to hear why you ran a different Zamazenta and maybe what you guys think in retrospect.
Yeah. So I had run pretty bulky Zama like the whole format kind of since Portland. Like mine was bulky there as well. So I just always had a lot of comfort with that and like living Maridon hits and living a lot of different things. Excuse me. I just always felt you gained so much in so many matchups with the bulk. But the problem was the Shadow Rider mirrors were really hard, like with Goff. The speed versus their other Zamazenta, um, it was very like tricky when their Zamazenta outsped yours and they could just ruination and like body press you. So I was having a hard time running the bulky ones. And uh, when we switched to Icy Wind, I was like, I think this enables me to be able to run sort of this slower Zamazenta that's a bit bulkier, because I can count on that to drop their speed. Now I will say I think like it is still valuable to be like Icy Wind doesn't just suddenly make the speed issue go away. I think it's still valuable to be faster, but I just had a lot more comfort with the bulky one and like living different hits. Like modest Shadow Rider, I think I can live like 50% of the time if they're max, but most were I think most were dropping little special attacks. So there were just a lot of hits that were like very, very fun to live and like certain drifts from ride-ons as well. That I just loved the bulky one, but maybe Sanvy can talk about why he thought faster was good.
Because my friend convinced me that faster was better. Uh, uh, I've also used, in all seriousness, I've also used the bulkier Zamazenta, and I was usually in the mirror. I was the slowest one, usually. Well, the like day before or the day before. Like 2 days before, I played I play Showdown like any normal person would do 2 days before Worlds, and I played into an exact mirror, and my opponent I did not have Icy Wind yet, but my opponent had my exact six or like five, and their Zamazenta was faster than mine, and it felt like hell. And also, I was hearing Marco Fiero talk to my roommate. That like my roommate was concerned about my team because we lose to this, and Marco said this team sucks. If they don't have, you're not gonna run into a lot of them, and if because like they basically said that this team sucks because you want Zamazenta to be both fast and bulky, which is true. Because if you run into faster Zamazenta, it becomes hard this matchup. I decide also with Icewind that's not and like Icewind helps there, but if you're faster, you have more options on turn one. For example, let's say we both lead Zamazenta Champa into each other, and your Zamazenta is faster. I'm kinda forced to click Icy Wind and body press, and you can take advantage of that. Whereas if I'm faster, I'm pressuring a Ruination body press on your Zamazenta, so you might do something. You might do a mistake, like protect when I'm not attacking you, or like pop inter early, stuff like that. That's the reason I decided to run fast. The problem with the Magenta, it has this, my friend Luca called it Raging Bolt syndrome, where you want to run fast to outspeed other, but no matter how fast you go, they always well can be faster, and if they're faster you just wasted god knows how many EVs,
Hmm.
which is also true for Zamazenta, because you want your Zamazenta to be bulky, you want your Zamazenta to live like Calyrex, like Shovel Rider. The spread was the thing I stressed about the most. Like the night before, I even considered using like Impish Max or Jolly Max. Fun fact: I laddered one day with Jolly as a Magenta just to see how it felt, and I was outspeeding every Shadow Rider and every like bike, and that felt like it has some uses, but it also felt a troll because Jolly Zamazenta is faster than Modest Miraidon and Adamant Coraidon, but it's not faster than Modest Max Shadow Rider. So it felt trollish, but it was good being faster than those Pokemon. So I just decided to stick to a middle ground. I pulled up Stat Crusher. I saw that wow, the Magenta, the fastest the Magentas go to 169 and go to 170. I also outspeed by 2 points Lando I, and I'll run 156 defense, and the rest in HP, just felt some bulk. Felt I wish I was bulkier, to be honest, in the tournament. But I also outsped some Zamazentas that I might not have outsped otherwise. My ideal spread would have been something that like takes Astral Barrage, like +2 timid life of Astral Barrage, like 30% of the times, and then have the rest in speed. But that like I feel that raises another issues because with a spread like that, you're very likely to be slower than other Zamazentas. So
Mhm.
with my speed puts me at 170, and I felt like I was faster than everybody who didn't want to go very fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
So that's why I ran faster than Zamazenta. Also, sometimes, one time during practice, I was faster than one Miraidon. That was weird.
Uh huh. Yeah. Well, I remember back at the start of the format, everyone is running super slow mo right on. Um,
Yeah, like
but
full of death Miraidon.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that, let's talk about the how to actually play the team. I know again, I think that this is on the off chance the Red Guy does come back. Yeah, I think people are gonna want to try this team out. It's one of the best performing teams at the World Championships, and yeah, do you guys want to give people a rundown about what the common game plans are for this team, and then also if you have any matchups or you have more scripted out game plans or flow charts, what those might look like?
Um, sure. Yeah, I think for me, the most common lead I would do always by far was like Zamazenta Chiempao with, Shadow Rider and +1 in the back, usually. Like, it was often Dragonite. Um, but I just love leading like Zamazenta Chiempao into so many things. I felt like you could always get value out of a Ruination or a Body Press, or like comboing those, or just being able to do really strong things. And then after that, my other like super common lead was, Shadow Rider Zamazenta. You can just kind of lead with your restricteds a lot and then have Chi and Pao Dragonite in the back, to just like do sort of the really strong priority, cleanup game once things are chipped. But those are like my most common, I guess, general game plans. I could talk about specific ones in a minute, but first, I guess, Sanvy, if you have any like common game plans you would do.
No, I always do that. Like, ironically, 90% of my gameplays are lead Zamazenta, touch and pow, click buttons until everything is at yellow. I send in Shadow Rider, I click Astral Barrage. Then if something dares to resist my Astral Barrage, I click Extreme Speed into that as well. Or rather, if something wants to be immune to my extreme speed, gets Astral Barrage.
Yeah. Yeah, so like those are just, I guess, the really common game plans. Interestingly, MDB mentioned in an interview, because he had brought a similar Shadow Rider team, that he led Shadow Rider Dragonite a lot and did like Astral and Terra Normal E speed. And I thought that was interesting because like
Yeah,
I've
that
never done that lead, but
I did it once
Mhm.
on like during practice just to see how it felt like, and it was against a Kyogre team,
Mhm.
and because I was watching my girlfriend play, she uses Kyogre and she queued
Mhm.
up into a similar team to this, and the guy was leading CSR Dragonite, and it felt very hard to deal with it because they pressure a lot of things. They pressure switch Shadow Rider to power extreme speed or something, or just
Mhm.
click the strong buttons. I wish that was something I explored more in retrospect
Mhm.
about the team. But That's the most intuitive way to play a team. You can honestly bring the strong Pokemon, click their strongest buttons, and take the dub.
Yeah, those are definitely more of the common ones. And then there are definitely some specific, like, into this matchup you want to bring this. I would say the most important of that is versus like the Fedicampo NAIC team, which is like that Lunala Miraidon, like Ursaluna, like Whimscott, like that team. I think, and now I'm Sanvy. I believe our plan was it was always Shadow Rider Zamazenta, and then with
Uh,
Amoonguss, who's very
What
important,
what
Amoonguss and
yeah, what
Dragonite.
I would you can bring every Pokemon into that matchup because it depends also on what they want to do. My go-to was to
Hmm.
lead Zamazenta, like to pick for the lead was to pick two of Zamazenta, Chanpao, and Calyrex. Spoiler: this is all how you want to play every matchup.
Uh-huh.
Pick two of those three, and then in the back I would have the other guy I didn't lead and Among Us. Among Us felt important there to
Hmm.
Sludge Bomb their Terra Fairy Lunala and to survive Trick Room because not only Trick Room but yeah for example like an Urshifu with speed control was the main Among Us main job. Then you can also redirect Miraidon and Electrodrift from Miraidon that feels helpful. So yeah, Among Us is the guy that comes the least. I think I'm not really sure why, but my favorite way to use Among Us was into teams that can like enable a strong Urshifu. By strong, um, what's it called? Sorry, blanking out. By strong,
Choice Band.
like choice band, yeah, choice band or like Mystic Water. And then I'm sure on what they can do with speed control because I have Raging Bolt also for that. But for example, the Fedecampo team has Barcelona. Raging Bolt is still good into that team, but if you find your Raging Bolt staring down Barcelona, it's not gonna end well. So it feels like Among Us has more stuff to do. It also acts like a good defensive backbone in general for that game plan.
Yeah, yeah, Amoonguss is good there. And then another specific game plan, like I always had in my head that we arrived at, like I had done a bunch of testing with Chuppa, was, um, you know, for this team, we don't have many like spore immunes, right? So it looks kind of scary if they lead Tornadus Smeargle and start putting stuff to sleep. Especially like we were worried when we dropped Ice Shard because Ice Shard was good into Smeargle. Like, oh no, do we just lose to Torn Smeargle? And Chuppa and I played it out a bunch. And the lead you want to do into Torn Smeargle is you do Raging Bolt and Chiempow, and you kind of just say like, okay, I'm probably gonna get put to sleep like Tailwind Spore, whatever. But
Yeah,
because
you
those
cannot
Pokemon,
deny. You
yeah, and
cannot
those
deny Elwood score.
yeah. But it's fine because they can't really do much. Like Tornadus, even when you decorate it or whatever, it's not doing like really anything to Raging Bolt on the field. And then the AV Chiempow can take the hits well. And you want to kind of like spam Icy Wind and try to like burn through your sleep turns as quickly as you can. And then KO Smeargle on the turn that you wake up. So like I just found that Raging Bolt and Chiempow, that combo was good at navigating versus Tornadus Smeargle. And then I think I would always do, Shadow Rider Zama in the back. And that worked very successfully in testing and in my actual tournament run. So it's like you have to be willing to go to sleep, but you just kind of like make sure to put
Yeah,
yourself
that's true.
in a good
You
spot.
can go to sleep, but you also got to play chances because
Yeah.
you burn your sleep turn right away. That was also like another thing with Ice Shard Chanpao. If when I was Ice Shard, they were always clicking Tailwind Spore on my Chanpao, and having Ice Shard didn't really feel helpful there because if I wake up, I'm gonna wake up regardless. It doesn't. It sometimes like, but rarely mattered if I could get nice it made no difference whether I went for Ice Shard or on or sorry, yeah, I guess Runesh works too on Smeargle down at 1 HP. Sorry, just that
Yeah,
was another thing I had in mind because iShard obviously is very important into that, but also not really because you get put to sleep. Sometimes it's nice to have, but Icewind is better.
yeah, and you don't burn a sleep turn on that first turn. You obviously you
No,
move before the
you
sleep.
want to spinner them turn one and then
Yeah,
iShard when you wake up, but you get put to sleep regardless. They always quick
yeah.
tailwind spell on your champ.
But yeah, you just have to be willing to go to sleep. And I was worried, like, does that actually work consistently, like banking on sleep turns? But like
No, but
Chuppa,
playing versus Mirgol, I don't think anyone at the World Championship had a consistent plan
yeah,
versus Mirgol.
I found it working a lot though, because like we just tested that. We literally like tested. I think we played multiple sets, just testing that like over and over, and most of them. And maybe I was getting really lucky, but I think it usually works out. Um, but yeah, that's like this
Yeah, you
specific
cannot
game
beat a
plan.
Mirgol that gets lucky.
Yeah. That dang
They,
miracle.
the reason I dropped the Tinglu because I still think like the Tinglu team had some merits to it.
Uh-huh.
I think Tinglu plus Amazenta specifically was a very good combo because I think that's probably the lead that has the most stats available in the game.
Oh
If you
yeah,
factor in Vessel of Ruin and Dauntless Shield, I don't think any lead outstats that. And Tinglu works really well with Samazenta because well, Vessel of Ruin plus Intrepid Shield, it's called? No, Dauntless Shield.
not the
Intrepid
shield. Yeah,
is the Sashan one. And you get to click coronation on a lot of stuff, put everything into the Shadow Rider range. The thing
yep,
why I didn't think that team wasn't worth using was Smeargle because
yep.
like with Tinglu you can do the kind of the same thing into Tornadus Smeargle, but not only but our English is that guys.
All good.
You, I was finding myself with our game plan based on burn as many sleep turns as possible. I was finding myself versus Smeargle teams. It was going down like if I sleep one turn, I win. If I sleep two turns, I'm at a disadvantage, but I can work with this. If I sleep three turns, I lose. And that's how I felt.
Mm,
And this was every Smeargle team, not just Tornadoes plus Smeargle. It was every Smeargle team, and I didn't like this.
Mhm.
So
yeah,
something had to change. I didn't think running like goggles, something glue would have fixed that in the long term. Because yeah, you still get put to sleep on the other guy. That you can protect, they can fake out, they can decorate. So yeah, I just decided it was time to let the moose go. Despite I
yep.
love Tiglu, by the
And then
way.
Dragonite, as opposed to it gets a priority move that it can pick things off with. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there are any super specific game plans. Another one that I would like to do versus and it gets a little trickier and consistent, but versus Fluttermane Koraidon, which is a thing that like especially Sash Fluttermane Koraidon that's on it could be on Groudon team or not Groudon. There's a lot of different like Ice Rider or Shadow Rider that would have that Fluttermane Koraidon core they love to do versus Shadow Rider teams.
Yeah,
Um, I always liked doing this kind of weird line where you would lead Amoonguss and Shadow Rider and like just kind of like Rage Powder, Astral Barrage, and get things into range of a priority move in the back. Like I'd often have Chi Pow and could get the Koraidon into Sucker Punch range if you Terra Ghost and Astral, or like if they take enough of the helmet chip from Amoonguss. Um, it gets harder if they have like Brute Bonnet in the back. It gets
yeah,
really
good point.
difficult.
Was it?
Yeah, but versus like a lot of like there were some Shadow Rider Sun teams that were going around that were like Clefairy or whatever too. Like versus all those, I'd love to do that. Amoonguss, Shadow Rider, and then I think I often had Zamazenta and Pow in the back. But you just
Yeah,
want to like, yeah,
I've had the Terrafire on Among Us as opposed
Hmm.
to Terrawater because it's better if you lead it into Flutterby Shio. But that was a mix-up I considered doing. I never played into a Sun team at Worlds, so I've never pulled it off. But yeah, it's either this or lead the CSR Zama and click the right buttons. You can click, for example, White Guard, Astral Barrage on the Icy
I
Wind
see. Hmm.
flare, but they can expect this and like double protect to scout what you do or moonblast someone that situation is random. You just have to click your favorite buttons and hope it works, which is something that happens a lot with Cesar Zama. You've never lost Cesar Zama. You can lead Cesar Zama into everything and you can click your favorite buttons, and if you're right, it will work out.
Yeah, yeah. This it's very hard for teams to properly cover all the things that you can do with those two.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think those are the main like game plans. But I think a big strength of this team is like those general plans we mentioned are pretty good into a lot of stuff. Like I feel like I didn't have a ton of like super specific lines memorized. It's more just like figuring out which pieces are good into what you're um playing, and like you kind of all have strong pieces that can stand on their own, or
Hmm.
strong Pokemon that can stand on their own.
Yeah, that makes a
Yeah,
lot of
me
sense.
too. Me too. I didn't have any strong, like any specific game plans. Because the thing is, Shampoo plus Zamazenta plus Shadow Rider, like those three, if you pick two of those, are good lead into everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that, let's talk about the tournament itself. Again, both of you guys had
Mhm.
really strong runs at Worlds. Uh, I'd love to hear a couple stories from your experiences at Worlds, a couple highlight matches, and Sanvi, I'll let you go first. Did you have a couple highlight matches that you wanted to talk about?
Um, Not really. I guess my round seven versus Fabian Kuhl. Also, fun fact: we played at Lille Regionals earlier this season. I was his round one, and I got demolished by him. He was using this fake out nasty plot sort of Shadow Rider team, but his Shadow Rider was modest, and that gave me a huge edge. Also, his Mirgol didn't have White Guard. And I in game like I won game one pretty convincingly by clicking Icy Wind, Heavy Slam, Icy Wind body press, and in game two I got like a crit on his Magenta with my body press on like turn two, and I won that set in like 2 minutes. That I feel like showcases why Icy Wind Champa was strong in case we didn't make the message clear. Uh, Also against something I was like a player I did a lot of times during the tournament was sending out my Dragonite on like a free switching. So, like usually my Zamazenta died and I would send out Dragonite next to my CSR, and I was switching out my Dragonite immediately to bait out a defensive option from my opponent and clicking Astral Barrage. And Paul Ruiz, I played him at round 4, 5. Paul Ruiz was expecting me to click extreme speed on, I don't remember what was in his slot, but it was either a Miraidon or Incin. I just switched out to Power, I think I had in the back, and click Astral Barrage, then they just switched in his extreme speed immune, his Shadow Rider on my Astral Barrage, and lost. Lost because of that. So that is also another fun way you can use the team. I feel like this team, despite it being stale bred, it's very skill expressive in how you play. There's not a correct way to pick it. Just do whatever feels best to you, and it will probably work out.
Hmm. Yeah, and then Montana, I'll pop it back to you. Let's talk about your run all the way to top four. Give me a few of your highlight matches over the course of your run.
Yeah, so definitely one of my, I think the most fun ones for me was in my round 5. I played Matteo, who I believe won Bologna. Is that correct?
Bologna, yes.
Um, but yeah, it was just like he was also on Sash Shadow Rider, so it's like, of course, we're speed tying. So I just remember there were so many mind games and us just like, just being very much in each other's heads and trying to like, claw our way to the top and take the speed ties. And I feel like the game wasn't it. I ended up making it not super decided by, like, definitely it helped to win certain speed ties, but there was also just like a lot of reads that we both had to make. And I just remember it was super fun. I was disappointed in Dragonite because Aquajet and Sword of Ruin did not KO Chiyu. I kind of was like, I don't think it's gonna get there, but maybe it will. And then it does like,
If you're
yeah.
thinking Aquajet with Dragonite, you always KO Pokemon that have exactly 1 HP, and you know they have 1 HP because you saw the focus
Yeah,
effect. But
Focus Sash.
otherwise, if you think Aquajet will get there, it won't.
Yeah, I was like, I was maybe a little too hopeful. It should have just been an extreme speed, or I think there might have been a Shadow Rider that I wanted to lock into Jet for later. But yeah, I was very happy to win this, and we both had a great time talking about it afterward. Um, and then let's see, my run in general, I played a lot of Shadow Riders on Mazenta, so that Icy Wind was very good. Versus Torviv, I got the up pair versus him in round 8. I remember I like as soon as I saw my Chiempao like flinch before his Shadow Rider moved, I was like, oh, it's modest. And yeah, I just like Sanvy said, I did a lot of like icy winding and body pressing. And there was a point in time where he navigated to getting a +2 on a Shadow Rider, and he clicked Psychic into my Zamazenta, and I think that's actually maybe the one that I posted the clip of on Twitter. And I just barely lived because I was that super bulky spread. So yeah, I think it was this set, but I remember he was very surprised because I think he didn't double that
Oops.
slot because it's
Okay.
like,
I
Zamazenta should
was,
die to that, and then I get to just body press it back. So that was very like, I was very happy that I was able to take a lead in game 1 and then sort of keep that info advantage about the Zamazenta. Definitely all the spreads paying off for that match specifically. Um, but then, yeah, talking about some other ones, it was Ko Tsukide. I felt that we usually had a good matchup into the Miraidon Lunala stuff, but the switch that he made was he has Life Orb instead of Specs versus the Feta Campo one. And that means that Terra Electric Drift kills my bulky Zamazenta,
well,
or
I'm
at
used
least
to
has a
that,
roll two.
so jokes on you.
What was that?
I'm used to Electro Drift KOing my
Oh
paper
yeah,
things
you're
Amazenta,
used to
so
it
jokes
because
on you.
yeah, you run the thinner one, and I'm used to living that. But I just remember Ko played amazingly, and he did some crazy read where like I could have he had like Lunala and Ursaluna on the field, and I thought that he was going for like protect Trick Room, like it felt super safe because the Lunala was super healthy. So even if I punished it by doubling Lunala, like he was still in a good spot. So I was like, of course he does that. I'll double the Lunala. Nope, he wide guards on my Astral Barrage, clicks Earthquake with the Ursaluna that I did not target, crits my Zamazenta with the Earthquake. I think I was still in a bad spot either way, and just gets the read right and just takes the game 2 or game 3. I don't remember which. But yeah, Ko just played that super well in a matchup that I thought I was favored in, and then ended up losing it. I remember he said like sorry after the crit, but I think I was gonna lose anyway at that point because he got so much value
Yeah.
out of it. But yeah, those are some fun ones, and then just like yeah, a lot of these mirrors versus other Shadow Riders and kind of trying to get the leads right. I found like I would mix up my leads a lot in the tournament, and I got a lot of calls right on those. And then a highlight was definitely my stream set. I guess the viewers can all go watch it, so I don't need to go into too much detail there. But my stream set versus MDB, I think I did Pauzama. I think I lost game 1 because I had a Mungus in the back, and I should have done like a defensive switch in with it early, but he got so much value out of KOing my Chiempao on turn 1 of game one and I like didn't Terra Poison it, like maybe I should have. That yeah, I lost that game one, and then I also hard choked it at the end. I could have won the game one because I won a speed tie and got lucky. And then on the final turn, or second to last turn, there was like a Terra Ghost GM Power or something. I was at +2. It was 0 turns of sleep. I had a 100% guaranteed win. And because of the nerves and playing on stream side, like I just didn't see it for some reason. I think I forgot about the Grim Nay boosts in my head, and I like targeted into his protecting Zama. And that was total choke. Like I had a 100% win. And then he wakes up and he ice shards me and he wins game one. But I was able to take it back in game two and game three, where I called him on the leads. Game two, I called that I was thinking he might lead a Mungus because that's good into Chi and Pao Zamazenta lead. And I led Shadow Rider. And I think that was kind of like the big thing was getting the leads right in those mirrors and those close games, and then sort of getting some of the mind games right of all the different turns. And then I had a mind game where I sucker punched on his attacking Shadow Rider in game three. But that was definitely like, I was very happy at the chance to get to play such like a good player on stream and have it go well for me. Yeah, and then I'm just trying to think. In general, I felt really good about my play and my run throughout like day one and day two. I also didn't get super unlucky. I think that's like a saving grace. Like I never had like super bad luck outside of a couple crits, and then I got a little lucky sometimes with things not missing, or I don't think I got too many crits. There might have been some, but that's pretty much my run. And then I lost to James Evans in what I think is a pretty tricky matchup. I think I psyched myself out in my head by saying like, "Oh, it's a horrible matchup," but like I probably could have maybe done a little better in it, and if I had different brings. But that's the way it goes. I was happy with the run altogether.
Yeah. I mean, you had a really, really incredible run. Of course, top 4 worlds. Both of you guys, I think, really cracked the format. Again, all 3 of you did really, really well at the World Championships. It's a crazy, crazy. It doesn't happen very often where you get a whole team building group to do that well. So big kudos to y'all. And thank you guys both for coming on the channel and talking about your team, talking about your runs. I'll give you the chance. Did you have any final words or shoutouts that you wanted to give? And I'll start with Sanvy.
Not, I mean, shoutouts to the usual bunch of people. My parents for supporting me, my girlfriend for supporting me, and everybody who outside of Montana, obviously, the Chapa. But I guess I'm playing the Chapa part. Everyone that, in their way, even with a little, me asking one simple question and them replying. Shoutouts to everyone who helped me arrive to this team. Shoutouts to Il server. They were a big part of my prep.
Yeah, and then for me, I just want to shout out Zach as always. He also specifically contributed in telling me to bring that Zamazenta spread that I brought when I was like trying to decide between a couple ones, and it ended up working out for me.
Well, where was he when I needed him?
Yeah. And then yeah, he should have said that to you too. Yeah, so shout out to him for that. And then shout out to everyone who worked on the team, of course. And also shout out to my mom because I was like, even a month before Worlds or something, I was like, do I even use Shadow Rider? Or I said something about like, what pair do I use or something. And I can't remember how it came up in conversation with her, or I told her I was trying to decide on a team for Worlds. And she was like, well, what was that one that like you did really well with at Portland? And I was like, Shadow Rider Zamazenta. She's like, just use that. And I'm like, sounds good, mom. So shout out to my mom for that. And the rest of my family who was like, I think all watching on stream and stuff. Yeah, it's a fun time.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for coming on the channel. Congratulations once again on your incredible Worlds performance. And yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up from us. Thank you all for watching. If you're watching because we're playing Regulation I once again, I am so sorry from me in the past to me in the future. Yeah, thank you again, and until next time, I will see you all later.